Tonight, deadly downpour, misery across the U.S. Northeast, the ruthless remnants of Hurricane Ida. Historic flash floods swamping entire neighborhoods.
Niagara Falls level water to the streets of New York.
The staggering scale of destruction.
If you're not in the right place, you're a goner.
A primetime pitch for votes at a crucial moment in the campaign.
Who has what it takes in order to win this election?
Translating the first federal leaders debate. Plus, the Canadian star smashing barriers.
Such an incredible honor.
Marvel's first Asian superhero hits the big screen.
Is this what you wanted?
CTV National News with Lisa Laflamme.
Good evening. Normally, the leftovers of any major hurricane have calmed by the time they take over new turf. Ida is different. Epic and deadly flash floods have left states of emergency along the U.S. eastern seaboard. Torrential rain flooded New York streets and disabled America's largest subway system. The storm left at least 45 people dead in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. People drowned in swamped cars, and flooded basements became death traps. Tonight, entire neighborhoods are still underwater. Add to that a series of killer tornadoes. CTV's Todd Battis is in New York City tonight with the latest. Todd, it is shocking.
Lisa, tonight millions of people are picking up the pieces after wind and rain devastated the Northeast.
Never has so much rain hit so fast, so hard in the most populated part of America. This is what 230 millimeters of water falling in less than an hour does. Floods killed people right in their New York City basement apartments, a 2-year-old child among them.
They got stuck in the back and they couldn't come out.
A flash flooding emergency was declared for the first time in the city's history. It swamped the country's largest subway system, stranding thousands of passengers. Things were no better above ground in buses. 911 operators took 500 calls from people trapped in their homes. 20 hours later, crews were still rescuing them by boat. Busy highways quickly filled up.
The cars are floating!
Vehicles were left floating.
Look at that tornado!
At least 7 tornadoes were recorded, including one in Mullica Hill, New Jersey, which wiped out entire homes.
I just don't want to cry anymore. I'm tired. Yeah. And burning up at night, you know, you wake up, you feel like you're in hell.
The powerful remnants of Ida were well forecast, but few thought this level of destruction was possible. A perfect storm of climate change and antiquated infrastructure.
We are in a whole new world now. Let's be blunt about it. We saw a horrifying storm last night, unlike anything we have seen before.
It surprised Aidan Langell, who had to rip out freezers from his pizzeria. Thousands of dollars of food and equipment were ruined. Water filled his basement and destroyed everything in a matter of minutes.
When the security cameras kicked out, I was like, we're going to have a rough day tomorrow.
This was the Brooklyn intersection last night at the height of the storm.
And the water was coming in like a waterfall.
After cleaning out his home, Stephen Levi mopped up his car, which wouldn't start.
The mechanic told me the car's to be thrown out.
An historic storm that will require an historic commitment to do more than simply clean up and carry on.
And tonight, parts of New York City remain at a standstill. They're calling this a once-in-a-500-year weather event. It broke rainfall records that were set 1 week ago. Lisa.
Staggering. All right, Todd. Now, after pummeling the northeastern states, remnants of Ida tracked straight up the Bay of Fundy and dumped torrential rains over Atlantic Canada. In St. John, New Brunswick, flash flooding closed roads and stranded drivers, and once again, Ida has surpassed predictions. In some places, there was more rain today than they normally get in a month. Tonight, there are rainfall warnings in Nova Scotia, PEI, Newfoundland, and parts of Quebec. There were a few thunderclaps rising from a Montreal television studio tonight as 4 federal leaders faced off in the first French language debate. Here's where they ranked walking in. The latest Nanos poll has the Conservatives in the lead with 34.2%, the Liberals at 30.5%, the NDP holding in third with 20.1%, and the Bloc with 6%. It's a tight race, and right out of the gate, Justin Trudeau was asked and asked again why he called it in the first place. CTV's Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier has the details.
Arriving for a first face-to-face en français, an added challenge for 2 of the leaders, Jagmeet Singh and Erin O'Toole, who are hoping to make gains in an unpredictable province. A small but rowdy protest in the sidelines as the leaders walked the red carpet and brought their battle to the studios of TVA, the French language network.
Ce soir, les chefs des 4 partis.
A 2-hour debate. First topic, the pandemic and a vaccination passport.
Est-ce que le moment n'est pas venu?
Is it time to force people to get vaccinated, the moderator asked Justin Trudeau. No clear answer from the Liberal leader, who was then asked by Yves-François Blanchet,
Si vous aviez été majoritaire,
if you had a majority, would you have called this election? We have decisions to make on Canada's future, said Trudeau.
Les Canadiens méritent de l'ambition de leur Parlement.
Canadians deserve to make their voices heard. Why did you trigger an election in a health crisis, O'Toole then asked, a question that has dogged Trudeau since the beginning of the campaign. You are promising to spend billions more in your platform, he said to Trudeau, while O'Toole was asked how he will manage to balance the budget without cutting services or increasing taxes.
Vous n'avez pas chiffré votre plateforme.
Your platform isn't even costed, Trudeau answered. Long-term care and health care were raised, with Jagmeet Singh repeating he would abolish for-profit long-term care.
je veux régler ce problème.
I want to fix the problem, he said. Federal health transfers to the provinces is a big issue in Quebec, O'Toole saying he would increase those transfers. Trudeau accusing O'Toole of favoring a 2-tier system.
Blanc bonnet, bonnet blanc.
You are both the same, Jagmeet Singh told them. The leaders interrupted each other, attacked each other's platforms.
Je pense qu'on doit aider les gens.
Jagmeet Singh, whose party was left with 1 seat in Quebec in 2019, was determined to break through the verbal sparring.
Excusez-moi.
Going up against Blanchet on a question of racism.
Trudeau.
Big test for Erin O'Toole. This is his first debate as Conservative leader. He struggles with French, but his numbers are on the rise. Tonight, he was trying to convince Quebec voters that he is an alternative to the Liberals and the Bloc.
After 6 years of Justin Trudeau, our country's divided. And the best way to bring the country together is to respect provincial jurisdiction and work together on areas where you can find common cause to get the economy moving and get the country united again.
One of the things Canadians know is that there are very, very different perspectives among the different parties on how we make sure we end this fight against COVID.
A first 2-hour debate, and despite interruptions, some vague answers, and the attacks, voters in Quebec had a first good look at the 4 leaders and what they stand for, Lisa. And as one analyst put it, the real campaign starts tonight.
It was an interesting debate, Joyce. All right, thanks for this. On the first of 3 debates, the next one, also in French, is Wednesday, September 8th, and the only English debate is next Thursday, the following night, September 9th. The issue of zero tolerance on sexual misconduct also came up in tonight's debate in reference to the military and allegations against a Liberal candidate. Justin Trudeau has cleared Raj Sani to run for re-election in Kitchener, despite reports of unwanted sexual advances toward female staff. Tonight, the Conservatives want an investigation into whether the workplace harassment policy on Parliament Hill was actually followed. Trudeau has defended Sani, saying, quote, rigorous processes have looked into the claims, which Sani denies. The humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan was also part of tonight's debate and centered on accountability, whether the government did enough in the days before Kabul fell to get those with links to Canada out from under the Taliban takeover. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin on one person who did get out and the defiance from those left behind.
Under Taliban rule, music has all but disappeared. But that sound That's defiance on a Kabul street. But others too continue to speak up, including a group of Afghan women demanding the right to employment, education, and that the new regime include women in cabinet. The Taliban is preparing to unveil the new government and has sought to distance itself from its image of a brutal, oppressive ruler. Everyone should go to work and live. Offices, shops, and companies should start operating and have no fear of anyone, says a member of the Taliban Special Forces. But there's widespread skepticism and questions as to just how the Taliban will rebuild a shattered economy in the country of 40 million people, most living in crushing poverty.
I have no hope for the future. Every person wants to go outside from the country because they have no jobs.
Tens of thousands have left. Tens of thousands more are still desperate to escape. The Globe and Mail reported today that Canada's ambassador to Afghanistan, Reid Sears, went on leave in mid-July, needing a break from the stress of working in a dangerous country, said Global Affairs. This as Taliban fighters were advancing and as embassy staff were begging for help to flee. In a statement to CTV News, Global Affairs says mandatory decompression programs are in place and that Ambassador Sears cut short his leave to return to Afghanistan when he learned the security situation was declining. He left the country again when the embassy suspended operations on August 15. Among those destined for Canada, including citizens, many are now trapped in Kabul, some hiding in safe houses, received this today, food to feed a family of 6. And this is their water supply. But some are still hopeful they will find a way out. Officials in Qatar say experts are racing to reopen the airport in Kabul, but there's no clear timeline yet. Lisa.
Still very much an hour-by-hour situation. Genevieve, thanks for this tonight. To another grim situation, this fourth wave of the coronavirus and its hold on Canada. There were another 4,000 new infections today for the first time since May. 29 died of the virus today. Ontario, Alberta, and BC are seeing the highest spikes. The staggering surge has pushed some provinces to make vaccines mandatory. But as CTV's Alberta Bureau Chief Bill Fortier reports, the COVID hotspot is holding out.
More than 3/4 of eligible Canadians are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Today, a dire warning to those who don't have a single dose.
The risk of getting infected during the next 6 to 12 months is above 90%.
Ontario is reporting its highest number of new cases since early June. In a course reversal, the province will now provide vaccine cards, which will be needed to access some places like restaurants. The announcement already appears to be driving up vaccination numbers, according to a tweet from the province's health minister.
And I think that's one of the positive effects of having a vaccine mandatory policy and a vaccine passport.
Quebec is on day 2 of its proof of vaccine program. Manitoba starts tomorrow, BC later this month. Today, a return to restrictions for the Northern Health region after a spike there. But in Alberta, Canada's COVID hotspot, still no plans to bring back rules or demand proof of vaccination, even though several businesses and all 4 major sports teams will.
So this is coming. And if we don't act now, I fear we will reach a place where Albertans will be scrambling to catch up with the rest of the world.
Alberta saw a second straight day of more than 1,300 new cases, and nearly 500 COVID patients are in hospitals. Doctors fear it will only get worse as kids head back to school.
It's really stretching our hospital capacity at the moment, and I'm quite concerned that in 2 weeks' time we will have no space.
As that concern grows, Premier Jason Kenney has recently returned from vacation, but has yet to face journalists. In fact, he hasn't fielded questions from reporters in more than 3 weeks, since before the fourth wave really started to swell. Lisa.
Tough situation in Alberta. All right, Bill, thanks for this tonight. Time for a 2-minute break, but when we come back, legal erosion on a woman's right to choose. Backlash in Texas over a ban on abortions. Plus, the past and future collide as ABBA returns. A new Texas law banning abortion is the biggest limitation on a woman's right to choose since it was first legalized almost a half-century ago. CTV's Tom Walters on the result of a deeply divided Supreme Court.
While women in Texas still say their bodies are their own, complete strangers have new power over them.
Every unborn child.
For decades, attempts by state governments to restrict abortion have been thrown out as unconstitutional because of a landmark 1973 Supreme Court ruling. But suddenly, that precedent is in doubt.
Right now, Roe v. Wade is a dead letter in the state of Texas.
The new Texas law would ban abortions just 6 weeks after conception, before many women even know they're pregnant. It's so extreme, it would force victims of rape or incest to give birth to a child of their attacker. And though one justice calls it flagrantly unconstitutional, the Supreme Court has decided to let it go ahead. Moderately conservative Chief Justice John Roberts sided with the court's liberals against it, but couldn't outvote the conservative majority, now assured by the justices Donald Trump appointed. What complicates the legal question is that the state won't actually enforce the new law.
Roe v. Wade has got to go! Hey!
Instead, activists can go from opposing abortion in general to singling out individuals. Anyone, including a complete stranger, can make a $10,000 bounty by successfully suing a woman who has an abortion, her doctor, or even the cab driver who takes her to a clinic.
Of course we're worried.
The White House today promised an all-of-government federal effort to stop the Texas law, which President Biden calls an unprecedented assault on a woman's constitutional rights. The Supreme Court could still strike it down, but as it prepares to weigh another state abortion ban this fall, it is not showing much support for the right to choose. Tom Walters, CTV News, Washington.
Still ahead, awkward moments on the campaign trail.
The only option in this election for you is the Liberals.
From accidental endorsements to flat tires, the leaders spin on the blooper reel. Halfway through this election, and not everything has gone to plan. Here are a few unscripted moments, starting with this unexpected pitch from the Green Party.
Help us to join the Green Rush, then the only option in this election for you is the Liberals. And you can
Wait, what? Enemy Paul poked fun at herself today.
You know, you do one press conference too many without having had your lunch, and there you go.
Hey, it happens. Here's another one. One of the wheels literally came off NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's fancy poutine photo-op truck today. And a squirrel with a snack stole the show running around behind Justin Trudeau during an announcement earlier this week. And social media had a laugh over this Conservative flyer that had a few typos, including Ottawa with only one T. Okay, well, this is no mistake. In fact, it's about time. ABBA is making a comeback. The Swedish pop supergroup produced their first album in 40 years, and next May they'll stage a series of virtual concerts in London using digital avatars, or should we say avatars.
5 minutes before they came into the studio, I was thinking, I should have asked if they can still sing. But they could, and they can, and they have done so.
ABBA is one of the most successful groups of all time, selling over 385 million albums.
You are the dancing queen.
Song never gets old. After the break.
Who are you?
Marvel's newest hero and his Canadian connection. We leave you tonight in the hands of a superhero, John Venevali Rao, and the leading Canadian star, and his push for representation.
Back home in Toronto, Simu Liu's been thrilled to share with the city and the country. Is this what you wanted? The kind of role he always wanted to play.
Who are you?
A superhero, the first of Asian descent to star in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's such an incredible honor and an incredible moment to bring it all back here for